of traditional miniature artwork that originated from Persia, came to India through Mughals, and still prevalent in different styles here. I'd like to give you a little introduction about my projects and my works. As I'm a visual artist, I mentioned, it's important to understand the projects, my trajectory, to connect with my artworks. These are my original artworks that was created for this particular series. 2012 in Allahabad, I met Mr. Gandhi and he asked me to create work on Lincoln. And I was, other than knowing Lincoln as the 16th President of America, and of course a little bit more, I didn't know more about it. But I knew my work is related to Gandhi. And I knew there were a lot of commonalities between the two. So then it became my trajectory of understanding Lincoln and Gandhi as common thing. And since we're all in the contemporary times, Obama, we all know what's happening and everything is so global. So I could connect the three of them together. Something about my previous projects, I have worked as a designer with my own label in domestic market for almost about 10 years, created sampling for European American buyers, taught fashion forecasts in design schools, and then gradually moved to visual arts in 1998. My select visual art projects have been lyrical abstractions, Beyond Mithila series, Indigo narratives, Sought the Great March. Some of my very important projects, which I'd like to mention here, I recently curated a show on with the splendid Indian textiles for the ASEAN countries. This was a Government of India project, and I have a couple of catalogs here, and I'd like to share it, or anybody who wants to pick it up from here. There for you. So this is a catalog out of that, and then I was selected amongst the 50 women artists amongst the women category in Delhi. And I recently had a group show on the title Care Package, the American Care Package concept by Asian and Asian descent women. As I mentioned, I must talk a little bit about my previous projects. So this Indigo narratives, which I just mentioned, draws upon India's history of colonial past, narratives of immigration and transnational economic interchanges. In this whole body of work, the project approached the elements of past and present with historical enactment of narratives from Champaran, the non-violence movement of Mahatma Gandhi, 1917-18, and there was some traditional Indigo artworks. There was some embroidery and embellishment coming from Sindh and Balochistan. And also the multimedia poetry, which I'm going to talk about later. The second project was Sought the Great March. As I mentioned, my work has a lot of Gandhi and Gandhi's Satyagraha movements. So this was a very recent 2013 project. It took me 3 years to cover this. So 2009, I finished my Indigo narratives. 2013, I've been reading, understanding, researching on Gandhi, his Salt March, his understanding about the movements, his experiments with truth, and eventually I delivered this project in this October. This series further explored issues of nonviolence, tolerance, harmony, and draws attention to Gandhian ideals of Swadharma and Sarvodaya. So for you, Swadharma means my own duty. It's a Hindi word, my own duty. And Sarvodaya means upliftment of all. So these were two very important Gandhian philosophy, which was a part of Indian freedom struggle. So this particular Salt series had huge installations, fabric installations in the gallery, which I would share with you. And there were 25 contemporary Indigo printing techniques from India. Now, this I would like to quickly read out to you. This is the poetry, each artwork of mine, along with the installations. I have a poetry which comes out as a multi-media spoken poem. The blues of indigo, or the moods of indigo, the turbulent blue waters. So this poem kind of explains my whole project. Die of hunger, no food to eat, but grow indigo. Why says a farmer's child innocently, I'm hungry? The natives of region Delta, early 19th century, India's colonial past, torrid and stifling times, the woe of a mother, child and a farmer, oppressed in drudgery, hundreds of years of subjugation, the hawk and the worm. The greed intensifies, the Tintankas enforce, the hell break loose. Like worms they die, so they do, even today. Mahatma steps in. He walks miles and miles, preaching freedom to live, right to live, kindling awareness. He wrote letters unending to colonizers ruling, fighting for the farmers. The hawks threatened him. In his body frame, unshaken he was, went on and on. No violence, he said. Stop growing indigo. We will fight. We need wheat and rice to survive for the dying farmers who gave their lives to grow indigo plant. The blood that spilled in the fields of blue is the blood that stained the chest of indigos to reach England. This poem delves into the politics of indigo, the first national freedom movement in Champaran led by Gandhi, and the unfortunate state of the farmers even today. The story about the need that when the indigo was grown in India, and I mean it was a Eurocentric need for British, but India being a colony to them, so they could enforce the concept of you need to grow indigo here and not grow your cash crop. So 300 years, the farmers went through the torrid, stifling times, till Gandhi came back from South Africa, and he said, I'm going to help you, and you have to stop growing indigo. And this was his first experiments in the freedom struggle. And this was the poetry that, which explains the whole concept, but also there was a vernacular text written by Dinabandhu Mitra called Neel Darpan. And all this is a translation of the text. So this is a huge installation, about 20 feet high, recently exhibited in Chicago Cultural Center, where there are 300 of these buttons, and it was a homage which I paid to the farmers of the story. Each circle is symbolic of the story of a farmer who died unsung and unheard for 300 years. So this was my homage that I paid through this installation. The play where I got inspired from portrayed an eco-political exploitation by the colonizers in early 19th century. It became a significant movement in the politics of India's freedom when Gandhi intervened to fight for the indigo farmers. This is one of the view. The textile hanging disc of Ajrak traditional contemporary design, linking the past and present with the designs in the wooden blocks and dyeing and printing techniques. This is another installation I'd like to share with you, where I had created these farmers out of some wires. This sculptural installation has a kinetic posture. Show diminutive human figures dangling from metal ropes. These figures are emblematic human beings who are once oppressed by draconian land laws of colonizing government. These figures draw parallel with the farmers of today's times also, who forced to commit suicide thanks to the imperial introduction to genetically modified seeds. The indigo victims are still around in a new form under this new form of the governments. This is a closer view of the sculpture that which were hanging from there. This displays 16 human structures, 15 inches in height, corded and twisted with a cotton rope with metallic chains. This conveys how native farmers were oppressed by the Eurocentric need by the colonizers in Eastern India. It's variable in size specific. This was a very important, this was the first piece of art that I had created. It's not very clear there for some reasons. I think there is an issue there. I had created these works on canvas, and this gold thing that you see is Sanskrit calligraphy. It's block printed with gold, and I took the canvas and I painted it to blue because I'm talking about indigo, and I kept rubbing it with a stone. When you keep rubbing it with stone, there's a shine that comes like just like maybe like a stone, clear stone. And then I painted these hawks. So each panel of this triptych exhibits the images of hawks are metaphorical to the British, who twisted the indigo farmers with their razor-sharp beaks, with lotuses in the beaks rising over the ground with the worms. So the lotus were the antecessors, and the the hawk I was trying to show as the British, and the worms down below. So this was my final interpretation of the text wheel that was written by Dinabandhu Mitra. And there was another installation where I symbolically created a blue jacket made out of canvas. I painted the whole canvas to blue, stitched it the way a normal jacket, it's a medium-sized jacket, was constructed signifying the oppression and forced labor, investigating the Eurocentric need for indigo color, with the brass identification of on the arm. And finally, this was the last part of my installation in Indigo Narratives, where there is a quotation by an English civil service person, Englishman. He says, "Not a chest of indigo reached England without the human blood." So I created this out of a piece of newspaper as an origami. Then I'm coming to my next project, which is a sequel to my Indigo Narratives. After I finished in 2009, this show already showed Delhi, Bombay, Gujarat, then it went to Seattle, Miami, in Chicago Cultural Center. Presently it's being shown in Washington DC, in Gandhi Memorial Center. So when an artist creates a work, you don't know you're creating it because it's like a baby, and you don't know where all it's going. So this project, 2009, then I started, sort of a great march. I delivered it in 2013. The first reference which I got was from the Thomas Weber book, where I saw Gandhi standing with people all wearing white. So that was a jumping point for me to decide this is the sea of humanity who's walking just in white khadi fabric. And there's a poetry to it, which I will run it after this, because this was an multimedia audio work, which I'll run it later. That image that I showed you, where they were on the Sarvapati ashram, when there were like 100,000 people standing to move towards Dandi March. So here is my contemporary interpretation, where many consider this moment as a turning point in anti-colonial cause, for a large part because the power of unified group of khadi-clad people following khadi through this journey. It is said that when people who wore the white khadi, there was a sense of unified force which led them to be together and reach the march which Gandhi was looking at. So this is like a bigger look. I bought about 100 meters of khadi to begin in the project and did Sanskrit calligraphy on it, printed into gold, and then I created these sails. The symbol of sail is surging on. So there were these sails which were moving on, and this poetry which I'll run later was placed below. And the poetry went on as a chanting. This was my installation. So the poetry went chanting below this whole installation, which had multiple meanings. One was showing how Gandhi would have walked many years back, my 2013 interpretation. And also, the use of Gandhi can create a lot of economic difference in today's time. This was another installation that I created out of chenille pipes. I was trying to say, I'm rewiring my nation in 2013. Since I was talking about Khadi, and I was trying to say, well, we can create alternative societies by using Gandhi's principles of Swadharma and Sarvodaya. And this installation explores a fellow feeling with every human being on the earth. It means a complete renunciation of geographical boundaries and the universe as one country. This work also represents how different elements could live in a single entity without contesting in each other's presence. This was a participating work in the gallery. I created a half large. It was as huge as 10 feet and 8 feet, which I created, and I left it for the visitors to come and participate with a chenille pipe, so you can keep creating, making, and finally going in. So these are the threads of Swaraj on a title, which was created out of when the weavers finish weaving. This is the kind of thread that's available, and then you kind of create a fabric out of it. So now let me come to project Lincoln 2012-13. It was important for me to explain my previous projects for you to gather how I In 2012, as I said, I met Edison in this Allahabad conference, and he mentioned, why don't you create some work on LinkedIn? So these are the 4 pieces which were very recently created, as back as like a month back, and I'm still working. No art is complete. If I take it out, I can still keep working on it. Eric H. Erickson recalls in his book, Gandhi's Truth, that when Mahatma Gandhi met with the British Viceroy in 1930, after the Indian salt protest campaign, Gandhi took some salt-free salt from his duty-free salt from his shop and said with a smile, "This should remind you of the Boston Tea Party." So this was a jumping point for me. As I mentioned, when Edison said that we create some artwork on LinkedIn, other than knowing him as the 16th president and a little bit more, I didn't know. And I started researching more. He gave me a book on Abraham Lincoln Without Borders. I reading it. And Boston Tea Party was a jumping point for me. Boston Tea Party was, we would know the story behind it. The narrative is that British had already started taking a monopoly on the tea. First, they made tea as made people aware what drinking tea is like. And then they took all the tea from China, and they said anybody who wants to buy tea, it not has to go through vendors or any merchants, it has to go via us. So they auctioned it. So the problem is they taxed the tea for the Americans. And this is exactly what happened with salt. How the salt march actually started from England when the trade route was a part of the spice route, the traveling, the British would put a whole lot of salt in the ships so that the weathers, bad weather could make the ship, toss here and there to stabilizing the ship. And the salt would come to India, get imported there, and then they said, why should we not use our salt? And they taxed the Indian salt, and they said, London, you should have to buy this salt. So that was the problem with Gandhi. He said, this is not going to work. It is our salt and you can't tax. And exactly the same way Boston, the tea. So as an artist, I could create a similarity between both the tea taxation and the salt taxation. That's why Gandhi said that this should remind you of your Boston Tea Party. So for me as an artist, when I created this blue teapot, was the teapot, as I mentioned. But the blue that I used is because at the same point of time, China was doing blue pottery. It's actually, the blue pottery originated from China. And my talk is an attempt to deconstruct my work, understanding what made colonists across the geographical regions exploit the colonies for the Eurocentric needs. And now, this is the blue pottery from China, the blue flowers. So I tried to bring those blue flowers, which is from the China. And of course, the contemporary times, when we know Obama himself confessed that my mentors have been Gandhi and Lincoln. So this piece of artwork is Obama rising out of the wisdom of Lincoln and Gandhi was my imagination.
Could you put the previous one previous to this? For a moment, please.
I'm just going to do it. Just 2 seconds. Can I read this for you, sir?
Quite.
With this salt, I'm rocking the foundations of an empire. This signaled to all the Indians to embark on the course of civil disobedience, making and selling their own salt. At this time, India had been ruled by British Empire for more than 200 years. The British had taken control on India's main industries, including highly profitable salt manufacturing process.
Yes. You are linking 1773 to 1930.
Yes. Yes.
Others are linking even to 2030.
Yes.
Sorry.
So this is the blue pottery. Now we can find a lot of commonalities between Lincoln, Gandhi, and Obama. Both were lawyers. Both derived inspiration from the religious scriptures like Bible and Bhagavad Gita. Both were assassinated, and both were assassinated they were both lawyers. So now let me quickly talk about the miniature artwork that I have created. These artworks that you see originates from Persia. They came into India during Mughal time. There is a technique to handle it. They are done on vasli paper. Vasli paper, there are layers and layers of paper which are dipped into water, and this is as thick as this. And I created those vasli paper, first of all, to make these paintings. I'm not a miniature artist, but I'm an artist who can delve into different genres, I would say that. So I created the vasli paper, and then I started painting with the wash medium. And wash medium, if you keep rubbing stones on it, it like shines over it. And these are original works. You could come here and closer and have a look. But these are the images out of them. So miniature artwork is, now this is another piece of work that I created. This belongs to the 17th century where the Mughals had done and I created a work which is Lincoln with a piece of word of peace, I would say, the dove. Another connection which I was in 2010, I was invited in a place called Decatur to show my artworks, and I really didn't know where Decatur was. And it was like, for even for Americans, it's not like people know where Decatur is. And when I was reading Lincoln, and I went on in reading, and I realized after he left his home place, he actually moved to Decatur, and that time it was a wilderness there. And so I started imagining maybe, he would be in the forest, and this piece comes out of a comparison with the Mughal paintings and Lincoln with the bird. This is a typical portrait. This is the real miniature work style, and I put Lincoln, I made this painting as a portrait following the miniature art style. And this is the final piece that I like to show. Curator translate Lincoln's love for nature, and right behind is the Lincoln Memorial Center, almost at the back of it. Mm-hmm. And this comes from a book which I was reading by Philip L. Ostergaard, Chapter 2, New Salem. Who more than a boy who learned to read by firelight would better understand the wonderful privilege of education, and who would better appreciate the special blessing of being able to read the scriptures? So this artwork came out of my imagination from there. Thank you very much, and I'm quickly going to zip you through some of my artworks where I very passionately work with the textiles. These are dying arts in India, and I create artwork out of them. Many of us wear printed fabrics, but this is a part of my Salt series as well as Indigo series. Many of us wear these as fabrics, but we don't know what art is it. So I, as an artist, and understand the aesthetics of art, I create paintings and have them shown in the gallery and talk about this textile tradition of India, which is dyeing. And these shows are on, I just showed this in the Gandhi National Center of Arts.
Shelly,
Yes.
sorry, in the interest of time, because we've
I'm
quite a bit.
Thank
So I
you.
just